Hello, ladies and gentlemen, as I go here, I'm on the PTR. We just had an update, and yeah. So just really quickly, I'm making another PTR video for Conqueror's Blade, published by Porus Interactive and developed by Booming Tech. So most of the descriptions, or if not all of the descriptions, are now in, so I'll be reading through that. There is a update to the units, so I'll go over that. Um, so it's mostly just reading. It's just mostly just reading and stuff, just getting you the actual descriptions and stuff that we have on the PTR. But I also want to clarify that technically they have an NDA for this thing, but not sure what level of enforcement they're going to go for this. So yeah, not sure what's going to happen with this. Anyway, um, first things first. I think everyone wants to know the runes for next season. There are definitely some of them that were kind of weird and were translated strangely, but even now in the description, they could be translated badly. I haven't read through all of them. I've read through most of them, but from yesterday, they're mostly lined up. There's a lot more clarity for some of the things, and just basing it off, we got the common ones, the water spirit one and mountain essence ones, very normal. So agility and resistance increased by 2, strength and toughness increased by 2. Now, the very important one is the weapon ones. And this one is a returning one, but I'm not sure because they had this before. Um, so when normal attacks hit so this is for the bow, otherwise longbow. They call it just bow here instead of longbow, but it's just bow. When normal attack hit the enemy, a stack of laceration will be added. When 3 stacks of lacerations are accumulated, the enemy will take damage worth 3% current health plus 300 last 3 seconds. Now, the weird thing here is that we actually had something very similar, but I'm not sure if the specified amount of bleed was different. And also, I want to also say state that um it lasting 3 seconds and only giving us 3% current health plus 300. We don't know if that's per second or if that's over the 3 seconds. So um yeah. The other part as well is that laceration reduces movement speed by 5%, and to that stacks up 3 times. So which what like there are some things that are not clarified properly. So is it saying that this debuff lasts for 3 seconds and hitting them each time with the laceration. Like you could hit someone with the laceration thing and you could keep reapplying laceration at 3 stacks and they would keep taking the bleeding damage. And if it is 3% current health per three, I mean, sorry, plus 300 points per second, um, it wouldn't it would be fairly oppressive in the long run against something like a short sword who normally loves to maintain a almost unkillable status in Ironside, but this bleed won't care. Not to mention, this also works against units. Hit a unit 3 times and they're taking this amount of bleed damage. I mean, like you won't kill it because it's based on current health. Um, but you shoot at something that's has a lot of health, single unit, camels, berserkers, Varangian guards, like basically a lot of stuff that just refuses to take a lot of damage. This bleed will cut them down a size. And is it good? I don't think so. I honestly don't think it's that good. But just just the utility of it is just incredible. It's extra damage still. Depending on like what you're hitting, this bleed could be way more effective than people probably give it credit for. Especially since like bow has a penalty of like negative 28% armor penetration against heroes, but that let that not stop some bow people from still hitting me for 4K with a single basic attack. And if they hit me in the head, I'm taking like 8,000 damage. I'm not even joking either. Like if they shoot me in the head, it's like 100% extra damage. And there are some bow users that for some reason can get still hit me for 4,000 damage, and I'm just like, go away. I don't want to deal with you right now. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating things, but that's what it feels like when I face off against like the one longbow user that is like has a god weapon or something. Um, this is what we thought. Sorry, the second bow rune was what we thought it was. Is concussion on lightning bolt, 2 seconds. Um, the fact that it says enemy heroes only is annoying. It should just like concuss everyone that it hits. I think if like maximum hit is 7. Still, this is the weird one, but it. Prey Trap has like a 1 second stun when it thing, but now it's a 2 second concussion. This guarantees Prey Trap. Um, Prey Trap already is very oppressive, and now this makes it even more oppressive. It's a bit of a waste though, considering that there are some like the next one is just completely OP. But I Chain, Dart, and Scimitar doesn't need more CC. It's got probably the shortest CC loop in the game because you could literally um, leap slash throw, scorpion snare, leap slash, double throw, leap slash. And I mean like the leap slash double throw into leap slash, there is like a point there's like a point there's like a 0.2 second delay between hitting that first concussion and hitting that second concussion. You actually have so little time to react that your animation is unlikely to finish. There are some classes whose animation is just too long that you would either both I mean like for me, I would get hit, he would get hit, so it would both be on the ground. And it's just really infuriating. Now, okay, this is completely broken. And I thought it I thought as much that it is what it's saying, but this is essentially they're already Stinging Strike has 3 individual daggers. These individual daggers have a unique counter. So you can reduce that cooldown 3 times. And it's a 1 second on passive, basically. So basically inbuilt into the skill itself right now. If you hit anything with Stinging Strike, each individual dagger will give you 1 second of cooldown off. This essentially gives that passive again. So you're doing 2 seconds per dagger thrown. And mind you, it's an 18-second cooldown, and you would only need to throw 3 times. You used to have to throw like you used to have to throw like 8 times or something. You only throw 3 times now. Oh, maybe I'm exaggerating. You only need to throw like 6 times. This is literally cutting it in half. You actually didn't need to even throw that many times because like just natural cooldown would come through. Anyway, you could probably end up doing. I mean, like probably someone's already tested this, but like I could probably test this myself, but I'm not gonna bother. You could probably leap slash double through. Well, I mean, like let's start from the scorpion snare part. You scorpion snare, leap slash double throw, um, leap slash throw, scorpion snare, leap slash. That sounds disgusting, doesn't it? I don't want that to happen. And if you're like, oh man, oh, that's I want to cry. That's how powerful that is. We've seen this one before. This is just straight up ambush damage increased by 30%. I'd love ambush style. I'd love ambush style Jewel Blade to come back, but it's frankly just too unsafe to execute. Not to mention, like, there are not very many people who are um good enough at dual blade anymore to actually land back attack ambushes. Not that you get rewarded for it. I mean, like, you get the base reward is 50%. Ambush should really have an additional damage on back attacks. This is we've seen before. Hang on, wait. Hang on. Hold up. Each additional point of movement speed grants an extra 30% piercing armor penetration and 10% piercing damage. Normal attacks no longer make marks explode. What? Each additional point of movement speed grants an extra 30%. Maybe I actually do have to test out some of these things. Because I read that earlier. I mean, like, I read that yesterday, and I was just like, even that made my head hurt. So, not getting the ability to thing anymore, we should be able to see it as a passive if I hit something. Oh, I don't like how that... I lost the stacks. Wow, this feather thing gets in the way. Okay, hang on. Now very confused. Did the thing not work? Okay, I mean, like... I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I'm not seeing it. Not understanding how things work is classic. Each additional point of movement speed grants an extra 30% piercing armor penetration and 10% piercing damage. Normal attacks no longer makes marks explode. So I mean, like, if... So you don't... So marks don't explode anymore. Is it supposed to give you... Is it, like, trying to get you to use the other skills or something? I don't know. I don't... Hopefully this doesn't break again. That would be annoying. I don't want to make this terribly long since, again, I should have really just tested this out before just like doing these things. Oh, I see what's happening. Ah, okay, yep, I see what's happening. I see what's happening. I get damage boost when the movement speed kicks in from rolling escape. As you can see, that happens. Okay, I know how it works now. Kind of dumb though. You only have rolling escape that gives you movement speed. So, anything else give you movement speed? This doesn't give you movement speed, does it? I wish it did. So basically, if you use rolling escape, this is basically rolling escape. Oh man, I keep saying basically. I'm trying to explain something, but like keep changing how I want to explain it. Using anything that gives you movement speed besides their passive is probably going to give you extra 30% armor penetration and 10% piercing damage. That's actually really strong. Only problem is that you only have one skill that gives you movement speed, which is rolling escape. Lasts for 2 seconds, by the way. 2 seconds? 2 seconds of a boost every 7 seconds. So, is it strong? I don't think so. Marks explode with basic attack. With basic attacks, deal 10% more damage. I already explained this before. It probably works exactly. I don't want to work out the numbers. And now we finally understand what this says. Actually, the 5-round rapid shots are completely replaced with just pure grape shots. The second part increases their critical value. So their critical hit increases by 120% of their base plus 2,000. That's why we saw a lot of purple numbers, which was like the critical hits. I was just like, I mean, not purple numbers, the yellow numbers. It's because they're actual critical hits. I thought I was like aiming a bit, like I managed to hit their back or something. No, straight up, the damage of each shot now becomes a grape shot, which, um, which just really quickly. So it says grape shots, but it's this thing. Um, it deals 96% plus like 1600 piercing damage. That's why we kept seeing like combined damage numbers of like 4,000. Like I am fairly certain 5-round rapids, 5 shotguns, basically 5 shotguns to the face, and there's not a soul alive that's going to survive. Like this could easily be used as an execute. Just slap him down with close combat, walk up to him, get the fine gunpowder, and tell them to say their prayers. Because my God, they are they are going they're going to disappear. And I think it's really fun. I think it's really fun, and I don't want them to change it. I think it's just really fun. I want them to get rid of this though. Black Powder Bomb. I don't mind Liquid Fire getting this, but Black Powder Bomb is cancer. It's a ranged attack, and it basically like it screws over units, especially large formation units. Though at the same time, like I think Musket might become very, very popular just because Phalanx, the Sunword's Phalanx, is going to be the melee, the like basically they're going to be the infantry. There's no doubt that Sunward Pike Phalanx is literally going to be everywhere. Cavalry is probably not going to be non-existent while this infantry is out on the field being this powerful. So until we get a like a counter that can actually deal with it, um, yeah, it's just yeah, not even ranged units are gonna really struggle. The shield actually blocks. It's not like a heavy shield unit where it will block basically everything, but it will block enough where you will be constantly running away. You will never be able to hold anything against these guys, and yeah, they're very difficult to kill because you need to basically have continuous pressure on them. You let them recharge that for 30 seconds, you're screwed. Consumption, and yeah, Luge March is not talking about it's not talking about Luge March, which is the skill. It's talking about Luge March, which is the passive that's attached to most of the skills. It grants armor penetration and reduces incoming damage. This just gives you 1% extra armor penetration, 1% extra armor penetration instead of the old one, which replaced the skill to 3% armor penetration. And again, it like replacing the damage reduction part of spear was really stupid. Um, the the damage reduction on spear was super important and was like some of the reasons why spear is still very strong is because it's just got a couple of things that allows it to maintain a very high position of effectiveness. And it's also why it still outperforms Pike in kind of hero killing because it has that armor penetration to really do it. Not to mention its combo is faster and yeah, just basically slightly higher damage. That doesn't mean that Pike isn't OP. I still want them to get rid of the throw on the monsoon dragon or monsoon attack thing. After the triple stab into that thrust, you being knocked down should like a knock a throw, sorry, on a basic attack on a basic ability shouldn't be a thing. They removed it from up from the heel, and they removed it for they removed it. They should remove it for Pike. I don't know why they removed it from up from the heel, since up from the heel no one used it except for that one time I was using it in order to throw someone and then ground smash them to do a double throw. But like again, why would why would you get rid of that where it's just very niche and no one would any no one in their right mind would actually use it like that. Um, yeah, still, Pike, get nerfed already, please. I don't care that people think you're weak. You're not weak. You have 3-second cooldowns, you have combo abilities, and you have the lowest cooldown ultimate, and that bloody hell, I swear, has extra armor penetration inbuilt in it and a 40% minimum. I say 40% minimum damage on multi-hit target. So on multi-hit, so it hits if it hits 10 guys, it does a minimum of 40% instead of the usual 25%. So if you're inside your unit's not going to save you because they're not going to be able to absorb any damage. And not to mention, it's fucking ridiculous when I watch half my unit lose a third of their health just because Pike said, oh, let me just kill your unit. Also, if you get hit in the back, half your unit is half in dead. I mean, like, basically it increases to like 2/3 instead of it basically increases to about half instead of a third. But get my point. Stormrend being cooldown on reset is kind of annoying. It should just say ultimate. Like, would be cool if either ultimates just reset on cooldown. I mean, sorry, the cooldown is reset if you killed an enemy hero would just be really cool. But the fact that they use Stormrend, oh, I mean, like they specify Stormrend here, means that they want people to use Stormrends to kill enemies And it's really scared damn sad because you're going to end up in a scenario where someone will jump down on someone, storm rend, and then follow up with a monsoon, and then that guy is dead. All of a sudden, you can storm rend someone else and follow up with another monsoon. At like the potential for cooldown resets are ridiculous, and people are already very good at the game that they don't need to use ultimate in order to kill somebody. I mean, I got dicked around by some pike that just kept twirling around me and hitting me with the triple stab into a throw because there's no way I can recover from that. And any of my options in order to hit him would either miss or he would just instantly recover from it because he's mid combo, and it's infuriating. And this is exactly what I said. Gentle step increase damage by like the stack increase. So it reads weirdly, but basically it increases the damage. It increases the damage increase of gentle step by 3% by an extra 3% per stack. So it's base 4, now it's 7. So its base is 4, it's plus 3, now it's 7. So instead of being 12%, you are now 21% at max stacks. Why? Why do you do this? Not that any of the good pikes really remember to actually gain gentle step. There's only like two people I've seen, or like two or three players that I've seen maintain gentle step at high levels of stacks. Most of the time, they'd throw a chain of like three basic attacks when people are like on the ground and stuff, and basically just use that to follow up maximum follow up. But in combo, for some reason it's just not worth it. Maybe it's going to be worth it now, but it is 3 points. So I think people would just go with Storm Rend reset. Storm Rend reset, get the kill. This will be interesting, but not as interesting as this one. We kind of read what this thing is, basic, but going through it again, this is the second Odachi. So every sacrifice, Blood Craze increases critical value by 120% plus 1,000. So that's 120% of your base plus 1,000. And Blood Craze is obviously when you get 5 stack of the Nodachi's health steal thing. So basically, when you're in your rage state, basically. Now, Heroic Strike is is going to give me PTSD. um, but essentially, we figured out that this is not limited to Dragon Leap itself. So what I mean is that it's a two-part skill. It's a two-part rune. Dragon Leap gains the damage and knockback effect of having charged up for 2 seconds without the need to charge up. Also refreshes the cooldown of all non-Paragon skills. Paragon skills refers to ultimate, blah blah blah. The second part is grants heroic blessing upon hitting an enemy, each stack gaining 2% damage and 1.5% health steal for 6 seconds, stacking up to 15 times. 3 stacks are lost when the duration ends. So basically, you get something similar to the armor, like the passive of the shortbow. But here's the kicker. The Nodachi, this apparently right now triggers on every skill and is unique on target. So if you run into a unit and you proceed to hit them all with a single skill, you would max this out with a single skill. If you hit 15 individual targets with a skill, any skill by the way, not just with Dragon Leap, any skill right now, you would get this. I believe Dragon Leap in this scenario is supposed to be the only skill that adds Heroic Blessing. But if that goes to pass onto live server, this is basically a second passive that stacks with your Blood Craze. You will have 55% 55% lifesteal, 25% damage reduction, an extra 30% damage. And you could probably keep this up perpetually. Maybe, depending on like setup. I mean, like, you can already almost keep Blood Craze up perpetually. Now I know there's a particular setup to do that, but I'm not sure if it's consistent enough in battle to do that. So yeah, yeah, it's crazy. This is going to be really crazy if they don't fix this. If they don't limit this, it's going to be absolutely mad, 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 mad. They changed this slightly. Instead of 8% damage reduction, is now 10%, 10% defense increase. So this is more effective on stuff that has a lot of armor, which is not really that important because armor values are so piss poor. Like, also 10% increase is like less than 5% for most units. It's less than 5% damage reduction. Just give them back the 8% before, like, or maybe I read it wrong. Like the 8% before was like actually like eight a defense increase. Still, just how this reads, 10% defense increase is way too weak, way too weak. Again, this one as well. Using your Paragon skills makes you recover 0.5 health per second for 10 seconds. At that 5% of your health, this would be fine if it literally just read using your Paragon skill makes you recover 0.5% every second for as long as your ultimate is on cooldown. Yeah, that would be great. This is shit. This is terrible. This, like, what even? Why would anyone use this? If this gave you something like, oh, using your Paragon skills make you recover 50% of your health every 10 seconds. Yeah, now we're talking. Some of these classes are getting things that will carry through massively. This is retarded. This is like nothing. Longsword gets nothing again. Like the only good thing is this one. Also, just realize it only references Mercy of Heaven. It doesn't say anything about Knightly Vow. Terrible. 5 seconds as well. We have this one before Titanic Smash. I think I mean, like, Earth Splitter is very good, and the area effect increased by 25% just makes it feel even better. Okay, so this did translate properly, but I just didn't understand what it was. So it refers to Maelstrom, and you gain an additional 10% defenses during Maelstrom. The third strike of Maelstrom, you gain you gain 18% extra defense during the fourth strike, along with immunity to all control effects. Do mind, no one uses no one uses Maelstrom from the ground up because it's just too terrible. Everyone just uses um, Rock Slide Smash or Mighty Mjolnir and skips straight to the end or full charge. No one goes through the steps in order to execute big damage, and it's stupid. It's really stupid like that. Yep, that one read fine. So this poleaxe ones, if your health falls below 30%, your damage output is increased by 15. Um, we've seen this one before. Sideways sweep can now be used for a fourth time. Flying Reaper no longer knocks back, no longer throws, but instead stuns them. And it's not just heroes. It also works against units. I think the longbow one is also going to be the same, and it's going to concuss units as well. So it didn't reference Arc of Steel, it just referenced the two ultimates. Hail of Blades and Flying Reaper will now have crowd control immunity. fine. Everyone keeps complaining that the Flying Reaper gets interrupted a lot because it has a long ass animation. It was a very, very, very goddamn powerful skill. They just did not update the animation, and it was fine how it was balanced. But now with crowd control immunity, it's just like, oh no, you can't even stop it. So it's just like cry, cry, cry. Honestly, I'm not sure which one's going to be better because the concussion makes for very weird scenarios. And what I mean by that, because you don't throw them, you can walk up to units face on, front on, and have units of your own smash into them and Flying Reaper them at the same time. And this is important because you have to also remember, because Flying Reaper with throw units, if you mistime this and you're going front on, or and you're not knocking units into other units, you could screw up and miss out on a big amount of damage by throwing the enemy away from your damaging skill, or your damaging units, or like away from people. That was a thing. I've been hit by abilities, a lot of abilities, and they've saved my ass. Kind of the same thing here, but still, I'm I think people are going to go with crowd control immunity just because it's probably better. It probably is universally better. This one is very particular. You would have to have um, you would have to have a very good understanding on the pros and cons between a throw or concussion in the situations that you are going to use your ultimate. So I'm not a glaive. I just think that a is superior in most cases and a bit more flexible. Oh, sorry, and in certain cases is just wildly better. I loved used to flanking people and throwing them into my allies, pikes, whatever. Like you would see a charge and they would slam up against a shield, and then you would slap them straight across into the charge. That's what people used to do, but not anymore. I mean, people probably still do it, but yeah, no one uses shield units. I mean, so we have the short sword and the shield. Ironside increases defense by another 20%. Is this worth it? I don't I don't think so. 225% damage, like defense increase, add another 20%, so it's like 245%. Like this is like ludicrous levels of defenses. What kind of unit what kind of unit could deal damage to an iron siding short sword that has over 1200 armor and is like in Ironside? So this beast of a man where just wills himself enough armor to basically have like 3600. Like even muskets would struggle to damage. Like muskets actually struggle to damage short sword and shield. You want them to actually struggle? I like this. I don't like the fact that it also applies to Thunderstruck. I think Centurion Drill needs more love. Definitely needs more love. Damage or some kind of effect. But yeah, like Centurion Drill and Thunderstruck grants immunity to all crowd control effects. And obviously you have the bow increased damage to oh wait, hey, increased damage to ranged units by 15%. Oh, it's not units in general. It used to be increased damage to units by 12%. Now it's increased damage to ranged units by 15%. Huh. Going with the anti, going with the anti range position for the longbow. Smart decision, honestly. But I don't like it still. A straight up 10% increase in damage. Who doesn't have 600 slashing defense? I think even light armor would have 500 plus slash defenses, and if they don't hit 600, then I mean like, all right, cool. They don't take an extra 10%. They still die though within like 10 hits, so it doesn't even matter. Dual Blade gets increased damage to units by 15%. Shurikens are going to be very deadly, or will it not be? I don't know. I think the bleed is still the most powerful, strongest part of the shurikens. Oh, that's right. Shurikens don't deal damage because they don't have the thing. What was the thing? They have reduced damage on multi-hit. There we go. So you'd end up doing minimum damage after the fifth person. Okay, I read this wrong. So this is pretty cool. You get most of your buffs straight away with the first stack, and your passive only stacks 6 times. So what this does is make it so that you only need 6 stacks to get maximum. You get your 30% increase in speed, you get your 30% increase piercing damage, but I think you lose the piercing penetration. The piercing armor penetration, you lose that by the looks of it. If that's what it reads like. Because we just go back real quickly. It's here on the side. Armor piercing. Increase piercing damage by 1 point. Okay, never mind. It is all... Okay, so you get everything. I like how it says armor pierce, but it's just piercing damage and stuff. What am I doing? There we go. So yeah. This just shortens the need to it makes you able to get to your strong state really quickly, like really quickly. That's all it does. This is all it does. It's probably, I mean, like it is a two. There's not like a choice here. And if you would rather just raw stats versus this, definitely this. I mean, if you had a choice between the raw stats versus this, like sorry, you only get 8 raw stats for the 2 energy versus having essentially what amounts to getting your buffs straight away instead of ramping up. Yeah, I definitely take this over the raw stats. They had this one before, and I hated it because it didn't work out because it just took too many steps in order to. It had too many steps in order for this to work. But attacks against weakened enemies deal 20% more damage, and I also think that like this was a thing where it's like it used to be a common one among the thing. It used to be like one of the armor, but this one's for the musket, so I'm honestly really annoyed that they would have a worthless rune like this because no one's going to. I mean, unless weakened enemies is unspecified or undefined in this case, where we're just getting it confused with what's coming up next in like a little bit later. Mounted attacks deal 5% more damage. Spear, please stop. Like you had a 10% one, and that was already really strong. Or was it 20%? I can't remember. I can't remember, but like Spear Spear probably doesn't have the best runes. It doesn't have the defense one. It's just got a right click one. And I mean, stop with the mounted attack thing. I don't want to get stabbed by spear on their horse, and I can't even do anything about it because I get dazed. I can't even touch them because they do their jumping attack bullshit, and it's just like, oh no, their hitbox disappears for like 1 second. Okay, so for Pike, Pike also gets the damage taken during the first and second strike of Wandering Dragon reduced by 30%. So either during the animation or something, I'm not sure what this entails, but we understand that during that using Wandering Dragon, their only recovery series, they're going to get 30% reduced damage or something. Macedonian costume. Hmm. Weird name. I didn't even realize like some of the names in these ones. Damage taken during Blood Craze is reduced by 15%, but any damage mitigated this way is steadily dealt to you over 10 seconds. This is amazing because it gives Nodachi time, which it desperately needs. You can still overwhelm it with damage, but the threshold for damage is much higher because of the reduced 15% of the 25% damage reduction while in Blood Craze. And it's just like, yes, Blood Craze is going to be the go-to. If Nodachi is in Blood Craze, you better smack him hard enough to kill him or run away. The better option is probably to run away. Longsword one we've seen before. Trash, we've seen the mole one there. This one I think is new, but basically take 10% reduced damage while, sorry, damage taken is reduced by 10% while your Paragon skill is active. Easy as that. And yeah, we figured this one on Glaive last time. Turn and attack grants immunity to all crowd control effects, which is your horse skill for Glaive. Not your right click, it is your E. And we have Discus Thrower, so we have the reduced slow effect for the shield throw, or throw shield, and the cooldown is reduced by 30% and the range is increased by 20%. So Captain America time yet again, like the 3-second cooldown, and you get to throw that shield like, what is it, like every 8 seconds or something? Something ridiculous like that. And do mind that like the shield essentially can hit a lot of people. I remember people were throwing it and I would just be like, wow, that's really far. And he'd hit like the front to the back of a formation. I'm just like, wow, I didn't realize how long that range was. Or he'd be like 10 meters away from me and just be like, I'm walking up to him and he throws his shield at me. Ha, that won't hit me. Nah, it does. It seriously does. All right, so they're calling it Oracle's Mark for their translation here. I said it was holy something yesterday, but essentially it is the wrath thing from Helheim, or if it was even from Helheim. But obviously you have 2%, 2% gaining 2% damage for 20 seconds, um, and can trigger one time every 50 seconds when you're using a Paragon skill. So sorry. So what this does is gives you a passive where it gives you a trigger condition, and the passive is granting 2% damage for 20 seconds. That is the baseline. It has a internal cooldown for 50 seconds. Of 50 seconds. When you have the trigger condition of Paragon skills, which is your ultimate. The other ones is upon killing 3 enemy units, it grants 2%. So you have the baseline 2%, but the internal cooldown is 30 seconds instead of 50 seconds. But you only need to kill 3 enemies in order to get her Oracle Mark. This is also an internal counter, and it doesn't really care when you kill them. So you can kill one unit and then 10 minutes later kill another unit, and then like 20 seconds later kill your third unit and it pops. Or you kill 3 units in like one go and it pops, and then you just keep going. So I think this would be really great with Nodachi. Start off of the season. This with Nodachi, honestly, just cut through the enemy. Gain Oracle's Mark upon killing an enemy hero. So yeah, internal cooldown of 30 seconds. Still got that baseline 2% damage for 20 seconds. And last but not least, you have gain Oracle Mark upon dropping below 50% health, granting 2% damage for 20 seconds, can trigger every 35 seconds. Honestly, I think this one should have been changed to a lower cooldown, but they gave these ones such a low cooldown anyway. Giving this a lower cooldown wouldn't make sense. If this was 50, this was 40, and this was 30, that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. Also, that would probably, yeah, no. That would probably be insane for Nodachi as well. But either one of these will be insane for Nodachi. So this was read correctly, but you get invulnerability. So your hero becomes invulnerable for 1.5 seconds upon taking lethal damage, has a 180 seconds cooldown, and resets upon death. Damage dealt during Oracle's Mark is increased by 20%. However, damage taken is increased by 30%, and its duration to 15 seconds. Okay, it's not reduced by 15 seconds. It's reduced to 15 seconds. So that's not as bad. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. Um, Damage taken during Oracle's Mark is reduced by 10%. However, its duration is reduced by 15%. 15 seconds. Is reduced to 15 seconds, not by 15 seconds, to 15 seconds. Though, it would easily be able to test this out. Just have the Paragon skill one go into the thing, activate your thing, see your Paragon buff. Yeah. So this one is just a flat increase of 10% damage. Duration is reduced to 15 seconds. You got cheap death, which is normal, 15% reduced damage from damage taken from rear and headshots are reduced by 15%. Got the normal resilient. You have movement speed is increased by 20% during Oracle Mark. Oracle Mark grants an extra 8% damage, but reduces defenses by 20. Like, honestly, I'd 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 say fuck it. Nodachi, have these two together. Have these two together. This Nodachi, I am I am either going to I am going to live or die because I'm going to man. Should I be? I want to be Nodachi. I want to be Nodachi next season. I'm going to play Nodachi until the end of the season. And I'm going to run. I'm going to run such an absurd setup that if I can get going, if I'm like inside an enemy unit smacking the shit out of them, I'm going to love it. It's going to be so much fun. I mean, like, the almost unkillability when it was the 15% damage reduction, and then it tripled when you're below 25%. My goodness, that was ridiculous. That was absolute mayhem. Nodachi's running around with 45%, like, baseline. You'd see Nodachi's running around with 70% in Blood Craze, chopping at your units, and you're just like, I actually just don't have enough damage to kill this guy at 25% health. Oh man. I always found that time hilarious and I loved it because of how broken it was. Very sure, very sure that it got to a stage where I was fighting with another Nodashi that was doing it and we were just smacking each other but we couldn't kill each other. Critical damage value is increased by 300 during Oracle's Mark. So there's the critical damage value. The other one should be critical value, which increases your crit chance. So again, take your pick. I think this one would be very interesting in combination with the musket because that would be interesting. Also, that being said, really cool synergy if you use it with the Nodachi Blood Craze one. Unfortunately, because the Blood Craze one is a 3 energy one, I don't think it's that good. I wouldn't choose this over this. This is just universally way better. But this could be cool if this was a 2 energy one combined with this and it's just like, oh man, so much synergy that could work, but you probably won't have. Besides, this defensive one is the defensive one you actually still need to make up for your shortcomings. During Oracle's Mark, normal attacks weaken enemies, reducing their defenses by 20%. Now, this could also be really funny if the holy if the Nodachi thing didn't require you to use skills, but you could you could have this you could have this with Blood Craze, critical val with the Blood Craze, with the critical damage value, with this, and just be slashing them. And if you had epic armor sets, and you'd be invulnerable for 2 seconds, and you just kept slashing people. Oh my goodness, there's some combinations that are just like that sounds disgusting. Remember that Nodachi also has some very, very strong basic attacks because they come out much faster and they heal like a ton. 25% for the third hit, 50% for the fourth hit, and it's just like wowzers. Bandage grants immunity to poison and bleed for 10 seconds, and you obviously got your braces. Oh man, that took a really long time. Sorry for the again for taking so long. Anyway, really quickly. Obviously, we saw the stats. Sorry, hang on. Let's hold up. Before we go through the units, I'm going to read out changes or the PTR update log. So, season unit balance adjustments. For the Slingers, the unit size has been reduced from 36 to 28. The unit's base movement speed has been increased from 5.5 to 6.5. Slingers can now equip special doctrine. So they're talking about the Paradox Doctrine. I believe it's called the Paradox Doctrine, yeah? Yeah, Paradox Doctrine. They couldn't before. Reduce the Slinger's damage to large artillery by 70%. Yeah, because slingers apparently can hit siege towers and bring them down really fast because each of their shots was dealing 1600 damage. Considering that a culverin only does like 8000 damage, 5 hits from the slinger was basically equal to a culverin shot. And you can imagine the slingers were just annihilating the siege towers. I'm pretty sure like 2 groups of slingers could probably still take down a siege tower. And since you have infinite ammo, yeah, that shit's disgusting. Fixed an issue where the skills of the slingers would repeat when interacting with a supply point. I actually never caught on to that, but yeah, apparently you put them on the supply. You send them back to supply, and they would have another set of skills. This is kind of a reoccurring thing where being on the supply point for some reason gives you more skills. Companion Cavalry. Fix an issue where the Sworn Guard skill would cause other active skills to knock back the Modal Battalion in Modal March stance. In Modal March state, optimize Sworn Guards, slightly reduce the frequency of damage increase. Slightly. Optimize the effect of Sworn Guard, reducing the movement speed boost from 15% to 10% and damage reduction from 15% to 12%. Adjusted the global cooldown of Zephyr Blade from 7 seconds to 4 seconds. Again, not particularly sure what this internal or global cooldown of Zephyr Blade is even referring to, considering that Zephyr Blade has like a 20-second cooldown. Fix the issue where Storm Pound ignores target's blocks. Again, like you could have fooled me and just made it so that they ignore target's block anyway, and they just completely crush the shield maiden. So yeah, I thought you just made it that cavalry just ignores block. Optimize the first optimize the final node effect of unit training, adjusted the movement speed increase from 30% to 20%. I like how it says optimize the final node's effect. It's literally just a nerf from 30% to 20%. So it's no longer uber fast. It's no longer heavy prefecture cavalry fast because 20% increase in base. You also had the boost in speed with Sworn Guard, which was like another 10%. And like when they were around you, they were running as fast or like probably almost as fast and heavy prefecture cavalry with their 20% increase in movement speed. And that's like 14.5 or 14.8, some kind of bullshit like that. Optimized unit positioning in arrowhead formation. Honestly, I didn't see a difference. Optimized some skill description and unit tags. Sunw. So we have the Sunward's Phalanx. Sunward's Phalanx can no longer deal damage to artillery. Again, um, minimal change. A minimal change. It's kind of like an outlier case where it rarely happen, or it's like concentrating on things that it's concentrating on things like doors, barricades, those kinds of things. Fix the issue of abnormal damage reduction to cavalry from the unit training node. What? Fix the issue of abnormal damage reduction to cavalry from the unit training node? So you're saying there was too much damage reduction? Wow, you could have fooled me. Your medals have 65% plus 60% plus whatever from their stupid veterancy. So yeah. Reduce the damage of race to heroes? Okay, fine. That happened. Um, Fix the abnormal damage increase to brace from the unit training nodes. Okay, so when it says unit training, it means veterancy. And sure, I'm guessing that one of the training nodes increases brace damage, and it increased brace damage to a point where it was just untenable. Okay, yeah, agreeable. Like, no one wants that shit. But yeah, those are the PT updates. I've had a brief feel. Can't tell the difference. Honestly, a lot of the things, like, okay, so when I say I can't tell the difference, there's no nerfs. There's no, I mean, I didn't even read them out. Base health increased from 5,283 to 6,000. So that you're gonna see that in a second. Oh wow, did I skip a whole bunch of things? Reduce the minimum damage dealt by Ares Fury from zero point 0.5 to 0.1. And that's just another thing where I'm just like, huh, why did they have that? Who has that? Is another question as well. Like, the minimum damage dealt by Ares Fury from zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.1. That means Ares Fury would do a minimum of zero point 0.5 of their damage to anything they hit when they use that attack. That means no matter how much damage resistance you have, that attack would still be effective against you, which is retarded considering that's what damage reduction is supposed to do, reduce the damage they take. But now you're telling me that there's a minimum damage threshold that doesn't make sense, or that is so goddamn high, like zero point 0.5 versus zero point 0.1. That's 5 times. Like, this is essentially basically the same as having a minimum damage of 50%. Every other unit has a minimum damage of 10%. And I mean, like, I say every other unit, maybe. I'm not even sure. There's probably some attacks out there that seem very strange and deals a lot of damage. Like, kid you not, rapid thrust from Lancelots feel like that. Some attacks from Lancelots feel like they're doing a lot more damage than their stats would make out. But I mean, like, they have 2200 armor penetration anyway, so it's just like, ah, give it to them. When things don't make sense, there are definitely information that we're not getting, and it's just this kind of information where it's really scary because it's not something we can predict if we don't aren't told it. And people will just make assumptions which are wrong, and then changes happen when really we need to be tackling problems directly instead of indirectly. And that is a problem that needs to be tackled directly. Thank goodness it's been changed to point one, like normal, makes me still wonder who else is like that. But yeah, that is that is the things. Companion cavalry still very strong by the feel of it. Sunward's phalanx very strong still by the feel of it. There's nothing realistically that they changed. In fact, it's a buff. They got like oh man, what's like a 16% increase, if even, like about a 16% increase in health or something. So we also have the fact that the Scion Slingers got reduced to 28. It is a very cheap. It is very cheap. I mean, come on. we have we have a unit, a tier 3 unit that costs 80. Most tier 3 units are around about 100, like I'm just ballpark it here. 100, 150 to 100, 175. That is like normal. That's like normal. This is what you would expect from a tier 3. This is 80. You're half as much of a tier 3. And it's not bad. It's actually a really good unit. But why is it a tier 3? Why is it so strong? I would definitely take this as my range option. If if I like it was getting like I think that if like these guys could seriously replace my surf options. I'd get rid of Metallurgies and have these guys instead. If they were a little bit more tankier, they're not that tanky. Their ammo doesn't really matter because they have infinite ammo anyway with quarrying. Again, their blunt damage is amazing. At point blank range, it seems like their damage is increased, but I'm not sure if that's from other factors. But I'll tell you right now, this is not indicative of their damage. They have high critical chance. You get a stubbornly high rate of double damage, and um, the penetration the penetration and damage is not indicative of how much damage these guys are dealing. Not to mention, they have a passive which makes their normal attack concuss. This is really cool. Their block rate, I'd say it's around about 100, maybe 150 at max. That's about as high as I'd say. I did kind of underrate the accuracy. They're fairly more accurate than I gave them credit for, but there is a caveat to like this. It's to do with tracking and aiming. These guys are special because they're like Shenji, where they have a whole animation for their attack, not their reload. It's very okay, so it's very weird because of how slings work. But like Shenji would have to complete their reload animations in order before they can fire. These guys have an entire attack animation before they actually throw. So like you have an execution, so you have like a standby phase entering that swelling thing, and then you throw. They're tracking up until the moment of throw, which is cool because these projectiles are much closer to real life depiction of stones being thrown at you with a sling. Though, again, and I phrase this, in real life, those stones would be much faster, much faster. Your eyes shouldn't be able to track these stones unless 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 you're really good. In game, you shouldn't like if they were really traveling as fast as in real life in game, um, it would be scary. It would almost be blindingly fast. And I mean like that's the same with arrows. Like unless you concentrate on unless you concentrated on looking at these projectiles, they're 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 quite fast. They're much faster than what's depicted in game. Like it definitely not as fast as it should be, but it's much closer than either arrows or the crossbow bolts. Of course, like the bullets as well, not very fast either. Like you would not see a streak. You wouldn't see anything. It would just hit you, and you wouldn't even blink. You wouldn't be able to blink. That being said, continuing on, um, so we have the attack names. We have generic attack order, attack area. Sorry, designate ranged weapons. Order your unit to shoot ranged weapons at the designated spot. Um, these guys don't have. These guys have shoot at close quarters. By the way, they don't switch to melee. I also didn't bother to check how their melee works, but it would be really cool if they had a special melee where they had like a stone left and they would smack people. Um, charge up. So, say Chi charges up a heavy slingshot attack which deals immense damage to close enemies. You need to be within range. So this is really sad because you need to be within a certain range of enemies in order to use this, and it still is a skill shot, which again, really sad, but I think they should remove the requirement of enemies being close by and allow you to skill shot with these guys because it just opens up a lot of freedom for people. Keep the spread, if not increase the spread. Honestly, have more formations. Give us disperse, give us wing, give us wider formations, give us narrower formations, give us an arrow formation. Like formations could be cool, but they don't play around with it. And this also like limits their like some abilities which could be really fun depending on formation. Like disperse formation means a very dispersed shot. You could have winged formation, which could um, which could narrow in, which could narrow in. I mean, like if you shoot it close to you, it would narrow in, then fan out. It'd be really cool that way. I mean, like you could probably do that with disperse now. You just click right in front of them, just like. Doo! Obviously, you have quarry. The slingers will begin quarrying to replenish their ammunition. Um, Other interesting things is that its range is 60, and their range is 60. It's actually really difficult to get them to throw further than 60 just by targeting the ground. Um, I'm not sure what's exactly happening here, but you can try to get them to throw further. But I did find out that their maximum was 100, about 110 meters. But in order to even throw that far, you need either elevation um, or an object, kind of like using walls and stuff, but not sure if anyone's going to be able to tech that too much. Their trajectory is fairly straight, so I'm imagining these guys being used up close. And again, their health is very low, so it's really sad. If these guys had 5,000, maybe 6,000 health, brilliant, absolutely amazing. Voila, great, amazing all-rounder unit. They're not crazy strong in terms of DPS. I'm gonna tell you right now, they're not crazy strong in DPS. Um, I think what I worked out their DPS. Oh man, I probably could just quickly work out their DPS thing here. Oh man, where's the notepad? Because I don't want to do complex. I'm also gonna call on a calculator. Okay, so to put it simply, their DPS rate scores them at the lower end, scores them at the lower end. They're essentially doing roughly around about, I mean, this is probably not indicative because they're probably doing about 10% more. Um, but they're doing around about, no, sorry, I've calculated that they do around about 9,000 damage per second. If all, I mean, like, if they all hit, of course. I'm not calculating accuracy for this, but that's lower than every other tier 3, even the Shirt Steiners, which is hilarious because the Shirt Diners are trash. They have trash accuracy and trash. They have trash accuracy and trash thing. These guys actually have good accuracy. Um, they actually have good accuracy. Their fire rate, their fire rate is surprisingly, um, there's, hang on. Their fire rate is surprisingly only a 0.23, which puts them slightly, slightly above the crossbows. They're not very fast. Again, this is attack speed, which is quite indicative. Like maybe in real life, you could get slingers that probably threw this fast. They could take 5 seconds, take 5 seconds to throw a stone. Maybe like again, pulling out the stone, putting it in the pouch, swing, 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 flick it. There's a whole bunch of steps in order to get good amount of power and thing. Like 5 seconds sounds completely reasonable, and the animation shows it. So I don't know why they have like a unit that feels so good, but still trash. It's not trash. It's super cheap, and yeah. Anyway, anyway, um, they're realistically only going to be beating out. Oh no, I take that back. They don't even they don't even beat out the tier twos. They do less damage than a lot of the tier twos. In fact, no, all of the tier twos do have higher. In fact, even Iron Cat Bow Riders before Masteries has higher DPS rate than these guys, as in raw amount of DPS. Obviously, I'm not calculating for accuracy here. That's hilarious. That's actually hilarious. So tier two probably closer in thing. But that being said, these guys also do blunt damage. There's a whole bunch of things that are going for them. Not to mention untapped potential with the chance to stun on hit with their basic attacks, or even even with any attacks realistically. Going on to the companion cavalry, although it's still bugged. Oh wait, hang on. Man, just quickly go through better and see. Blunt damage increase, blunt armor penetration increase. So 2% for this one, 5% for this one. You get the block breaking by 15%. Again, even with this 30% increase, it's like 100. It's like 150. It's like 100 to 150. It's not exactly really high. It still take a while to break through like it still take 10 plus shots to get through anything with anything substantial. Like any heavy shield unit is gonna have over 1,000. Any shield unit worth a damn in formation is gonna have over 1,000 block. They're gonna block a shit ton of your shots. So yeah. Health increase worthless. Quarrying skill goes down 9 seconds. It goes to 30 seconds. So what? Sage cheese skill damage by 10%. Great. And again, quarrying recovers another 20%. This is really important because if it doesn't, you only get around about half your amount back. I mean, you can basically get like 90-ish percent from what I've seen of using the skill. You almost get your entire amount back when these guys are fully leveled. You just lose a little smidget of it, just a bit off. All right, going through the companion cavalry. I want this thing to end already, but very quickly, the description is King's Army. You got the leadership reduce one. You have the mounted spear blade, and this is where it gets very complicated. Not, hang on. The next one is really complicated really fast. Anyway, this mounted spear blade here is just a reference to them switching their spear when they use particular skill to when they switch to sword by using a particular skill. So let me just read it and I can continue explaining. Storm Pound, which is the skill, lodges a spear in the target. Companion cavalry cannot remove this spear, instead switching to short swords once it has been lost. Enemies pierced by their spears take damage over 20 seconds. I have no idea how this 20 seconds is supposed to even tell, like, this 20 seconds, is it a bleed? Is it a thing? I'm not sure. I've never seen it because a lot of things that I've hit with this companion cavalry just straight up died. Cavalry refresh their equipment and regain their lost spear upon reaching a supply point. So that's a really important thing. They break their spear by using Storm Pound. They switch to sword. Sword has its own skill, and you can go back to the supply point and get your spear back, which is really, really cool. I really want them to continue evolving that because I do believe it is actually one of my recommendations. It was actually one of my recommendations for a cavalry unit a long time ago. Not saying that they stole from me. Again, these are suggestions I gave them so they could make units like that because it's cool, and I think it's damn cool that they have options in its alternate state. That being said, continuing on, we have Sworn Guard. The companion cavalry damage and movement speed increase over time while remaining near your hero, reaching the maximum effect after 10 seconds. The effect disappears if they remain too far from the enemy for 2 seconds. Calculate individually for each soldier. Um, Whenever an active skill ends, they return to follow the hero. Now, this is confusing because when you use them, you can read the buff. Okay. I might hop back in. I might hop back in and show you what I'm referring to because there is a in-game description of Sworn Guard, but the changes I don't think are there completely. But Sworn Guard apparently has an effect that that increases movement speed to 10% and have damage reduction of 12%. This is what it says on the changes for PTR. I mean, on the changes for the thing. Now, when you read Sworn Guard in the description of the buff, it is different, and I actually think someone actually brought it up. Ah, man. Alright, never mind. I'll just go into training and just quickly show you what I mean. Otherwise, I just go around searching for something that I could easily just go to. So this is the Sworn Guard thing. This is what it says. So there's actually two... There are actually two... There are actually two effects happening right now. I know it's not been updated here, but they increase the movement speed and take less damage and recover 100 health every 2 seconds while within 300 meters of your hero. That already, like, it says 2 seconds. I didn't really equate it very well to Tundra humans. Tundra humans only healed for 0.25 and they only have like 1100 health. That means they'd be healing for somewhat like 25 health or something. Maybe 50 health per second. This is equal to. So this Sworn Guard healing thing is equal to the harsh, endless energy that the Tundra human have. Now, the other thing that's really confusing is that there is a damage and speed buff component. I mean, these guys' turn rate is really fast. These guys are very fast. Just looking at them, super fast. And as long as you stay within that 30 meters, you have all of those buffs. And for what it feels like, the damage increase is 100%. That's what it feels like. They do like 4,000 damage, and if they have that red glow on their hands, they're gonna hit for boom. Uh, like if they did 4,000, they're gonna do 8,000 now. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. But you have to get that red glow. The damage increase effect is
Mira más gris que
strangely
Silam sin
not
brillo.
linear, or it feels like you can't tell what stage of the buff they're at until they get that red glow when you know they're at maximum. Sometimes you'll get these like, oh, this looks like a very, very strong attack. Maybe it's because it's partial and they didn't have the full glow. Yeah. So there's a lot going on with Sworn Guard. So it has increasing buff and it has like a static buff. Whatever it like however powerful it is, we're not entirely sure. They've got descriptions, there's got incomplete descriptions, it's got a couple of parts that's been needs to be updated, and it is probably what was happening against the Medaus because Sworn Guard apparently has an additional effect that makes these guys attack different. It has an overriding effect, so it's just like so it was dealing a lot more damage than it should, or it's straight up ignoring it, or it's straight up ignoring interactions of certain things. So that that's just it. Now the companion cavalry form the core. Oh god damn, is this just a descriptor? The companion cavalry forms the core of the army's hammer and anvil tactics. They charge through the battlefield, striking hard at the enemy's flank to surround and annihilate the target. Yeah, it's just a descriptor. What a lame ass. What a lame ass um, unit trait. I hate descriptors because they give you no useful information about the unit. Because if a descriptor could literally just be put into like lore about the units, which again, you don't have a lore button. Anyway, the first ability, the commanding crash, Gale Strike. So it's going to be called Gale Strike. Um, the cooldown is incredibly low, like stupidly low. And this is basically the same as the Krieg's Brothers charge. They do this weird twirly thing, and then smack down, and then twirly thing, smack down, twirly thing, smack down. So there is a limit to how many units they can hit, and there's also a limit on um well again, just a limit on how many units they can hit. Just straight up. It's like a charge because of how fast they go. It basically is a charge because they'll just phase straight through units. What I want to say is it's very strong. And the fact that they're tracking, they just go forward and hit. You don't need to aim this anywhere. If you want to go in, you just press this ability. They'll go in and kill something. So this is like not. This is basically a charge with. This is basically a heat-seeking charge. You can't dodge this. You can't dodge this. And this is more powerful than regular charges because Sworn Guard makes it so. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit wrong about that, but it's goddamn powerful, man. And before you say anything, I don't know whether or not they actually have CC immunity. They're actually quite easy to kill if they're standing still. Problem is that they're moving so fast, I can't even hit them. So they have some level of they have like some level of either daze immunity or just like instant recovery or just have some sliding issues where they're moving so fast that even if you hit them, they'll move like 20 meters away from you before stopping. And this is just more issues with cavalry that has there's a mechanic that maintains momentum for cavalry for some reason. And this is the skill that the unit trait was talking about. Storm Pound, the companion cavalry rushes to the target and leaps from their mount, striking from above I said leap. I like how it says leaps from their mount. They don't actually leap off of their mounts and stuff. Their mount leaps and they strike as they come down. That's the animation. You've seen it. You've seen it in some of the videos. Um, so the impact from their mount knocks enemies down. It's actually a throw. It's actually a throw. It's not a knockdown. It's much more stronger than you think it is. Um, it looks similar to Spahis. Like Spahis do the same thing. Like they have two animations. They do like the dong, and they have the like rear up stomp, and then the jump stomp. Battle stomp is probably like more indicative of this, but coup de paid can do both variants as well, I think. Um, so while their spears pierces their enemies, whereupon they draw their blade and fight for 20 seconds. This is a lie. Or the 20 seconds thing here, I think, is a remnant of not going. It was probably a mechanic where they would get their spears automatically and it would return to them instead of needing to go to a supply point to get their spears back. And I think that's what's kind of being referenced here, but still, no idea what this like again, this reference to enemies pierced by their spears take damage over 20 seconds. Like, first of all, no enemy's going to survive 20 seconds after getting hit by you. Second of all, how much damage is it? We don't know. And frankly, I don't think anyone would be able to figure out because there's not very many things in this game that can survive getting hit by them. Or you could not have them next to the hero and then try hitting something. I do know that they kind of underperform when you're away from. They kind of underperform massively when they're away from the hero, and I think that's just indicative of just how powerful Sworn Guard is. Sweeping that, going right back into the companion cavalry, we have Zephyr Blade. When they use their spear, break their spear, they switch to sword, they get the Zephyr Blade, and they can use this skill. Basically, another heat-seeking charge thing. Yay! It hits hard, by the way. I've been hit by this thing and it did like 10,000 damage to me. It did 9,000 damage to me. Um, again, you watch the PTR testing footage. Not many people have because like as a recording from this, there's only 4 people that's watched the video. It's watch the video, otherwise people just don't notice the description or I didn't bring attention to it. Now we get to kind of some. Oh man, I'm going back and forth because I keep remembering something and forgetting about them. Paradox Doctrine can be used on the Slingers now. That's not it. So you got Apollo's Fury, which increases the chance of being stunned by 50%. This is really good. I think this is I think this you would definitely want this. Um, regenerate 150 health every second. Realistically, this is worthless because if they get killed, they get killed. That's my opinion. Anyway, veterancy, you've got health, just a flat health increase. You got armor penetration 15%, piercing defense 9%. You got slashing defense 9%. You got gale strike cooldown by a second, by 1 second for 3 times. So you got 3 seconds off. You have a powerful ass slow. Um, Storm Pound now also slows for 30 seconds and slows the enemy's movement speed by 15%, stacking 3 times. That's 45% slow for 30 seconds. How devastating. Not that anyone actually fucking gets hit by that thing and just like goes, wow, we're going to chase after this super fast cavalry that's moving at 9.8 or moving at some ridiculous speed. And it's just like, we're infantry. We can't even touch them. Again, this is stupid. You got piercing damage 6%. You've got increases Gale Strike block break by 20% 3 times, so that's 60% increase. Um, Storm Pound now also inflicts bleed, dealing 2% of health as damage every second for 10 seconds. Like, okay, let's bring it back to this block break thing. Their block break is already high enough that adding 60% is not it's not like a make it or break it kind of deal. Like, if Gale Strike doesn't kill the shield target, Storm Pound will. If Storm Pound doesn't kill, you just use Gale Strike right after, or use Zephyr Blade. They're so fast that most shield units, even like they're so fast that shield units won't be able to touch them, basically, let alone survive. Because, and also, like, most of the time you won't even be hitting the shield because by the time you're on top of the unit, you'd be hitting their back. They go straight through. Like, the Yanyudals do the exact same thing. Their attack is blockable. Well, I think it is. They have instant block break or some bullshit, but their attack is technically blockable. But they hit you in the back as they walk past you. It's stupid. It's absolutely dumb. Um, I think it's blockable. I have no idea anymore. There's like an instant block break component to it, or maybe it's unblockable and instant block break, and it's just like, ugh. Storm Pound now also inflicts bleed, dealing 2% of health as damage every second for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. Not that anyone's going to be alive. You either kill the cavalry, like, this is a scenario where it's just like the companion cavalry is suicide onto something really tough to kill. Like, really tough to kill. I'm sorry, bud, but like most of the things that this thing we've already tested like some of the toughest things that this companion cavalry can kill. And if this companion cavalry can't kill it, the bleed won't kill it. Just a fact at this point. Or maybe this is like underrated. It's still 2% of their health. This is 60% of someone's health. If they get hit by 3 storm pounds, this is 60% of their health. No way in hell anyone's going to survive getting hit by 3 storm pounds and then eat a 60% bleed. Yeah, now that's some that's some painful shit right there. Bottom line, we have increased slashing armor penetration by 15, piercing defense by 9, slashing defense by 9. We have the deal damage, deal increased damage for 10 seconds after switching to short sword. So you got a short period of time where you deal 15% extra damage. After using Storm Pound, you have Zephyr Blade cooldown by 1 second. Okay, 3 times. Slashing damage increase. You have using Zephyr Blade against an enemy hit by Storm Pound with a spear in them increases damage. Okay, that's cool. So the follow-up damage is even crazier. So you Storm Pound in, Zephyr Blade out kind of scenario. Increase movement speed by 30% and the charge damage of Imperial Stormbolt by 100%. No idea what the hell Imperial Stormbolt is by 100%, but I'ma be real with you, Chief. It doesn't really matter. Shit still dies. I think whatever Imperial Stormbolt is referring to is probably doubling the effect of Sworn Guard, but the charge dam of Imperial Stormbolt could also be just Gale Strike, or it could be referring to kind of like the collision damage. That could be a whole bunch of things. Honestly, I have no idea what it would be referring to since like the names don't match up. The doctrines for these 2 units are kind of crazy. Oh, hang on. Did I go through the stats? So again, like to point out, a cavalry unit that has 25 units. This is the largest cavalry unit we will have in the game, considering that the cavalry units that used to have the highest was, well, I mean, Cataphract used to have the highest. Daggerrack Lancers also used to have 21, but that got changed. Now we have Kev Tools, Keshigs. Kev Tool, like most of the melee cavalry have 21. I think with Iron Cab Scouts you can get 23 or maybe higher. Heavy Prefecture Cavalry can get 23. This is 25. This is one step up. Big ass unit. All of them deal an absurd amount of damage. Their stats don't show it. This 9 speed, increase that by 30%. Or no, 20% now. So they'll have 10.8 speed if you go bottom line. And I recommend bottom line. I think bottom line is better. The defensive stats not very great. The health is not very great. Big ass unit still. Alright. We have the companion cavalry. Doctrines now. Their skills. And I want to seriously just I just don't understand sometimes. Increase conquest. Increase the movement speed of sorry. Unlocks conquest. So this gives you a skill. What it does is increases the movement speed of your hero by 10% as well as piercing, slashing, and blunt damage by 100 for 20 seconds. Also increases the base effect of Sworn Guard by 100% and make it affect the whole battlefield for 20 seconds. Now, what it probably refers to is not the secondary component of the increasing, or maybe it does. I have no idea. I have no idea what that buff does because I haven't tested it. Maybe someone has. But there are 3 scenarios. It only refers to the movement speed, damage decrease, and the heal. Or it refers to the increasing movement speed and damage over 10 seconds, maxing out at 10 seconds. Or it refers to both. That is the 3 likely scenarios of what it does. If it's both, my god, that's OP. If it's the damage increasing one, god, that's OP. If it's just the base effect, my goodness, that's OP. Do mind. This is like 10% increase movement speed, 10% increase damage reduction. On a doctrine. You basically bring a free bagpiper just having that doctrine around. And of course they would have a doctrine. Oh my goodness, and I'm in the way. You can't see it. Let me just, oh wait, there we go. Increases the movement speed of the unit by 9% and increase the damage of the unit by 10%. Just no biggie, just simple stuff. Just a 10% increase in damage. Probably increases their like damage stats, but it's just like still. What kind of monkey thinks that doctrines like these should be legal? These are like these should be legendary doctrines. These should be skills of their own. Like they're so powerful, you could probably make a unit from those skills. Kind of scenario. Finally, onto the Sunword's phalanx and closing up the end of the video. Also going to briefly look at the announcement for the companion cavalries. You got the reduced leadership by 10. You have the super lance again, kind of thing that it's again a carbon copy of the Fortebraccio thing. It also has the take less damage during from cavalry during brace. It comes with the cannot attack enemies at close range. I'm not even sure if that's actually even true because it looks like they're attacking at close range, but they should have a minimum of 1, so they can't. So They need to be like an arm's length away from them, supposedly. Imperial Anvil attacks during brace, knocks enemies back. Okay, so fine. Um, Constant knockback. Their literal attack in brace is just all knockbacks. Very strong, very OP because since it's a constant knockback, probably it's probably straight up the best pike unit. This is basically stun on brace on steroids. Stun on brace on steroids. Like knockback is crazy. This is written wrong. It's not lethal damage, but anyway. Uh, Mura's generosity. Gain reversal of fate, which prevents one instance of lethal damage. All control effects are removed when reversal of fate takes effect. Reversal of fate begins restoring after not having been hit for 30 seconds. This is all wrong as well. I can still be okay. Maybe this is true, maybe this is false. They can still regenerate their blue bar after, like, I don't know. I don't know how exactly this thing's calculated and stuff, but basically, this reversal of fate passive thing is that blue bar health. It's a one-time instant. It's a one-time, one damage instant shield that basically you get hit, it flushes you recover from any effect, any CC effect. So you get straight back up after you get hit, and that after you get hit, and you take 0 damage. After 30 seconds, you get that back. I'm not sure if just hitting them, like if they block the attack, or whether or not you need to actually hit them, because it's just really annoying to try to get through their shields as well. And also, 30 seconds is a long time. People think that this unit's squishy. I'll tell you right now, it's seriously not. You have to waste large AoE abilities, or at least have something that can poke them. First of all, no one has poke ability. Why? Because no one brings range. Second of all, no one bothers to poke people to they always go all in. So you go all in and overwhelm the enemy. But the problem with this one is that because this shield protects them from one instance of damage, you would need something that has multiple instances of damage and enough damage that it would just straight up kill this unit. Trying to find units that are that strong is going to be a hard ask. Not to mention, like, this unit's also just crazy strong in some other aspects as well. Obviously, because it has Super Lance, it also has the inconvenient action thing. Just means that it can't use siege weapons. That's it. Not sure about anything else. Obviously, it has Imperial Spears. I don't know why it's called Imperial Spears. It should just be called Phalanx. You've seen it. It's just the brace skill. Formations are great. This then disappears and changes into these two abilities. Or, again, like, it's kind of weird how this works out. It's just like, you activate this, they enter the stance. Then you have roaming brace. So, they can move forward or backwards, staying in formation and in brace, which is really cool. And really cool. Thumbs up, massive thumbs up. Um, Basically, it's exactly like Imperial Pike Walk. It is as OP as it sounds. This basically has no cooldown. Essentially has no cooldown. Um, because of Imperial Anvil, because of the constant knockback, it's literally this thing is literally Imperial Pikes on steroids. Like, no joke, Imperial Pikes on steroids. Um, which is funny because I actually recommended a tier 5 unit that does exactly this. Do I regret it? No. I love it. I love the fact that this unit is being introduced, but I hate the fact that how strong it is because of so many other things. Like this like this roaming brace alone with the Imperial Anvil thing, those two things alone is already like a really good unit. I mean, like, in fact, also you got the Super Lance thing, but yeah, like give just just give your regular pike unit these two things and just watch them dominate. Well, obviously you would have to have at least sufficient damage, of course. Um, you've seen it. This ability is quite broken with all things considered. They do decent amount of damage, and of course with the knockback, any unit that doesn't have like immunity to CC just gets completely pushed away. And even if someone tries to get on top of you, you walk backwards. Like I keep saying this, the AI in this game is so bad, and like how attacks are executed is expecting the opponent to stand still um, is super bad because you could walk backwards, like just walk backwards, and most of the stuff in game will never hit you. Ares Flurry is the three stab thing. Again, it has been mentioned before, but this is not a brace skill. It's a triple stab. You basically get what Orochis do, but they don't move as far. Does this have CC immunity? It looks like it might. Not sure if it does. Does it have multi-hit? Probably does. It probably has a 3 multi-hit from what I can kind of see, or it just straight up to so many of them that I'm just getting blindsided. But it feels like it has multi-hit, inbuilt multi-hit, so there's that. The damage from it, quite decent, but basically it's an attack. It's basically like a regular attack. Um, I can't really, I can't really see the overall damage difference when I don't have things that just straight up like you can tell there's a difference in amount of damage because like the three thrusts are definitely dealing 2000 damage, but I can't tell how many hits it's actually doing. And when you're in brace, they have their own hits and they're all off time with each other. When you use this skill, they're all in time with each other, so it comes out all at once. So the brace might be about half or maybe about 60% to the Ares Flurry, but would I want the Ares Flurry? Would I want to buff the Ares Flurry and just use that? Not really. The brace is probably the main part of the unit, and I think everyone should focus on the brace. If you want to run around with Ares Flurry and just like annihilate people by racing right up against them and stab, 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 go for it. It would be a really fun idea anyway. Um, but yeah, it has a base cooldown of 13 seconds and a duration of 3, so it's got a fairly short cooldown. As you can see, when I showed it off last time, or if you didn't watch the raw footage anyway, um, it got increased by about 1,300, roughly around in like calculations out from the base. So it's still pretty low, but it's the largest unit size. As a tier 5, this is the largest unit size we'll ever see. I don't think, I don't think, I think only the tier 1s are size of 40. So it's actually it's either the tier 1s and tier 0s are the size of 40. I think I'm talking about the Mez Pikeman here. The fact that we have 40 units in this polearm unit makes this unit incredibly efficient, but just from formation size, just from size alone, this is already very strong. Like, even with less health, individually the units could be weak. Together, they're crazy strong. together, like their damage numbers here, individual units, decent. Even if they had like one attack, you could definitely see that like damage wise, they probably outpaced Iron Reapers in terms of damage. Just from stats, alone. Actually, no, take that back. Iron Reapers have a hit limit of 3 with their basic attack, so fuck. So these guys will get screwed over in terms of total damage output. But what I mean is that like the combination of everything together, the unit size, the health, the damage. I mean, the armor is trash, the health is trash, the damage is decent, but the unit size is huge. The largest tier 5 unit size is 24, or maybe 28. 28 from Shield Maidens, right? Shield Maidens is the
We
largest.
go to war, my sisters.
That's still 12. That's still 12 units more. This unit is 12 units more, and that means this unit is something like 40% larger. I think it's 40%. 40 45% larger than Shield Maidens. What? No, that doesn't make sense. 43 point. Oh, it's 43.3333 recurring, I think. Maybe I calculated it wrong. Maybe I calculated it right, but whatever. Basically, this unit is 40% larger than any other unit. That means statistically, just based on like unit multiplications, it should be like 40% weak individually. Each unit should be 40% weaker, but it's not. They're not individually weaker. They're quite strong individually. Maybe not as strong as everyone else.
You should know me, my lord.
Well, maybe I take that back. Maybe they
Gossiping
are
is all day
40%.
long.
Maybe they did do it right. 40% less health and stuff. But yeah, these guys could statistically be 40% have 40% reduced stats in comparison to everyone else, and they'd still be strong because just from the sheer size. Now going on to veterancies. Did I skip over anything? It has supposed to have a movement speed of 4. It will explain in a second. I'll explain in a second. So you got health increase. Wow, that's a lot of health increase. 15% health increase. Piercing damage increase by again 2% or 3 times 6%. Increase piercing armor penetration up to 15%. Then you have Ares Flurry cooldown reduced by two for 3 times, so 6. So you get a base cooldown of 7. Ares Flurry damage increased by 5%. 5% 3 times, so 15%. Then you got armor penetration of Ares Flurry by 30%, so your 21 something. 2150 turns to uh like 27, no, 2810 or something. Yeah, no one has enough armor to get hit by Ares Flurry and just shrug it off, considering that Iron Reapers have the highest armor value as statically, and most of their protection actually comes from heavy armor trait, which is just flat out damage reduction. Movement speed increase by 5%, uh, up to 3 times, up to 15%. So it's just like they're they're not very fast. They're still 4. I mean, Border Brushers are still slightly slower, or maybe it is 4 as well. Block increase by 120. Again, not sure why, but sure, whatever. It's like an extra attack. It's like one attack. Area like, and this is like one attack from something weak. Like this is like one more attack from. This is like one more attack from the Slingers. Ares Fury immobilizes enemy units hit for 1 second. So if you want to catch people, like The debuff on this probably affects CC immune units as well, so I can imagine this being super OP to Iron Reapers. Man, there's just so much of this just feels broken, or because there's just so many advantages that that has going for it. But yeah, would you concentrate on Ares Flurry? Personally, I don't think so. Ares Flurry is a very like it's a hyper damage skill, and you're not going to be in a flexibility to use it in a burst manner. You'll still use it as a counterattack. So when someone dives onto you, you use Ares. You'll probably use Ares Flurry when someone jumps you. Basically, you just need to you you're too slow to catch people, first of all. And if you can get in position to flank someone, that someone's screwed anyway. Any unit would just come around and flank them. And third of all, if someone charges into you, you can use um you can still use Ares Flurry as a counterattack. You don't need to not you don't need to absorb the charge with the brace. You can just use the Ares Flurry because it doesn't have targeting. It just attacks in the air, which is really great. I hate the fact that they changed Cylinders so that they don't, so that they no longer do that. So personal preferences aside, well, sorry, personal preferences here. I just think that Cylinders should return to the non-targeted version. And again, I really do think that there are some things that could be fixed with the Cylinder. I mean, Cylinder, the Blood of the Empire units are some of my favorite units, and I hate to see them just kind of rot in yeah, kind of just rot. The ASAPs as well is just don't like the direction they've taken them, and the masteries. I thought they would go. I thought they were going to be more stronger, but turns out it fell flat. Um, I guess one on one is just it's really strong, but it's just not on scale. It's just not on scale. Also, there's huge gaps in its power curve that it just flips. It just flips on its head, kind of where it's just like only for one instance is it going to be super effective. Then the rest of it is just going to kind of cave in, and that's kind of like been my experience of using ASAPs in game, where it's just like I get the Counter Strike buff and I use Counter Strike, and it's just like pow pow pow, and then all of a sudden I just get wiped because the unit I'm hitting just either gets flicked away or runs away, and someone else comes in and smacks me. I guess that's just kind of how everything goes. Piercing defense, 9%. Slashing defense, 9%. Damage dealt to cavalry increased by 15%. Damage taken from cavalry reduced by 15%. Damage taken during brace reduced by 15%. So that's good. And again, I don't know why I think these are flipped. I think the description for these are flipped. This is resilient. This is anti-cav. Um, again, doesn't matter. Probably still gives you the same effect. Increase brace weapons by 15%. Again, nothing bad about increasing damage of brace. Uh, each level reduces damage taken from cavalry when using brace types skills by 15%. Awesome. You now have 45% damage reduction against cavalry in particular, or 15% while in brace and 30% against cavalry. Oh, sorry, you get 15% reduction in cavalry, 15% um, again 15% reduction against cavalry while using brace type skills, and then another 15% reduced damage taken during brace. Crazy powerful. And of course, we already talked about this. You get the number of hits brace can hit by one. Yeah, if the Sunward Phalanx could only hit one unit, they can now hit two. That means that If that happened, that's 100% increase in damage. In brace. If they could hit 2 units and they can now hit 3, that's 50% increase in damage. That is retarded amount of efficiency. That is a retardedly powerful. A plus one, a plus one is basically never a bad option because it increases hit limit on an already really small hit limit, right? Like we're working with like ones and twos here. If you increase that by one, all of a sudden your damage output is skyrocketing. Not to mention, these guys also have super lancers. Their attack range is massive. And finally onto the doctrines. That's not it. Let's go for the epic ones first. I think this one's okay. It's not like it's conditional and it's kind of iffy. Whether or not I'd use it, I probably wouldn't. You could, you could use this. It's still 20% damage reduction when hitting people with Ares Flurry. So it's just like, oh, you want to be really aggressive. Get units in range of your phalanx and use Ares Flurry. And them trying to attack you is like it's just basically a damage trade. That 20% damage reduction could go a long way. And it probably will. Probably will. Um, you have the Sunward's Phalanx Overwhelm. Oh man. I mean like, yeah, glory. It's a whole skill thing, and I'm going to vomit. Unlocks Divine Gaze. Create semicircle totem. Semicircular. Oh my god. It creates a circular area of 8 meters up to a distance of 10 meters in any directions. Enemies within range gain a stack of exposed, stacking up to 10 times. Stacks are lost after 5 seconds. The Sunward's Phalanx deals 40% increased damage against enemies with 5 stacks of exposed. Base cooldown 50 seconds, base duration 15 seconds. What you would do with this is plant the totem down in a hallway where enemies have to go through and have your phalanx just 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 at the end of that where they'll have to fight you, and as they fight you they take 40% increased damage. Oh, enemy is just standing there. Advance forward, put the totem down, advance forward, dealing more damage already. Absolutely, absolutely disgusting skill, debuffing skill. It only works for you though, so there's that. Um, Divine Gaze applies exposed to enemy units. Upon reaching 10 stacks, that enemies deal 30% reduced damage to Sunward's Phalanx must be equipped with the Sunward's Phalanx Overwhelm Doctrine, as is a tire here, to take effect. Cool. You waste 2 Doctrine slots to give yourself a skill that's could be essentially very powerful against stationary objects. You could use it as a deterrent as well. 15 seconds, no one would want to come near you. You get hit with something strong, you plant that down, you plant that down as they're attacking you, and all of a sudden you're much more difficult to deal with and they're taking a lot more damage. I know there's a bunch of conditions on it, but imagine getting those conditions off. Just having the enemy just stand in it for however, like. The problem here is that you don't even know how fast the stacks. You don't even know how fast the stacks come in. Which, if someone could figure that out, maybe it's every half second, maybe it's every quarter of a second, maybe it's every second. If it's every second, you have about 10 seconds. Well, you have 5 seconds before you take increased damage. 10 seconds before you do reduce damage. So overall, these doctrines, again, they're so they're so weird because it's like it's like a support skill just inbuilt to the unit. Like they're adding so much to already amazing units, and I want to cry because it moves further away from transparency. I mean, like, unless you know what these things will do, and there'll probably be visual effects, so you'll probably know that something's happening. But what happened to the days of just like looking at things, seeing the effect? You have to worry about so much, so much of the small stuff that I'm quite baffled that like this hasn't this that we're just in a situation where we have literal units that are affecting enemies without even touching them, without even interacting with them. I'm literally throwing a totem at the enemy, and all of a sudden, oh, I do extra damage. Oh, there's 40%. I activate an ability, all of a sudden, all my allies around me are buffed. Okay, no, I take that back. Shield Maiden did that. Bagpipers, cool. That's at least thematic. I mean, Companion Cavalry could be thematic. Ah, I don't know. I don't know where to draw the line. Everything just seems quite too much for me to handle. And it's been 2 hours. I've literally been talking for this for 2 hours. We have just the last bit. I know, I want to cry as well. This is just about the companion cavalry's um, spotlight, lore spotlight thing. So let's get this show on the road and finish up. All right. So Alexander the Great, season unit spotlight, companion cavalry, 4-star. The Eastern Conquest, a testament of the gods. Advance! The ideals will soon spread throughout the world. Season Alexander the Great is about to begin. On June 20th, raise a toast to ideals with the new season's companion cavalry. Unit's inspiration. But sides of the kings of Macedonia um, often stand guard known as companions. They are noble-born, fierce, and loyal. Sorry. They are noble-born and fiercely loyal. The king regarded them as brothers and sisters, not as mere subordinates. Each companion will follow their king anywhere until the king passes or the very last uh, drop of blood is shed. The majority of the companion cavalry are born of nobility, hence they often bear the finest equipment, riding swift steeds, wielding the lethal lance, and resorting to sharp swords. Once their lances are broken in combat under the banner of the conquering king, these units become an unparalleled elite force, playing a pivotal role on the battlefield. Poets have likened the king's tactic to a hammer and anvil. If the infantry units hold the line in a tug of war with the enemy, if the infantry units holding the line in a tug of war with the enemy are the anvil, my goodness, you have to read that all in one go, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And I'm breathing in between spots where it makes no sense when I'm reading it out. The companion cavalry are the hammer, searching for any opportunity to exploit the enemy weaknesses and shattering them with a single decisive charge. After several rounds of hammer strikes, even the mightiest of foes will crumble in the grand Eastern conquest. This legion has accompanied the conquering kings all the way to the end of the world. Featured gameplay. They are the most loyal companions of Alexander, playing a crucial role in his tactics, often launching flank attacks on enemy formations with the king, and they draw immense inspiration simply by being by his side, enhancing their combat ability significantly. Yeah, basically, basically like twice as strong. Companion cavalries are also highly skilled in guerrilla tactics, utilizing dual weapons to adapt to various battle scenarios. Their exceptional flexibility allows them to engage in the right moment, creating significant advantage for their side with their high burst damage. Fearless in the face of obstacles, march alongside the companion cavalries to the end of the era. End of the Sea in Conqueror's Blade is the ultimate battle, the pursuit of ideals. For more information about the new season and new units, please follow our visual community. The final, again, um, is subject to change. They're subject to change. Alrighty. I'm kind of just hiding the thing here. Look at that. Look at that. That charge annihilated them. And even that should look retarded. I don't even know how they even thought that was legal. So, I mean, I interrupted that. You guys can probably watch it on YouTube or go find or follow the link down below. I'll be putting the link down below. Yeah, Companion Cavalry, just from those snippets alone, you got the Paladins and the Stalwarts. Even if they were, like, they're being overhyped by how strong they are, these are tier 4s facing tier 4s. The Paladins couldn't even touch them. The Stalwarts couldn't even sustain them. Like, from the front, by the way, these two units are some of the most difficult units to kill from the front, just from the absurdity of their strength that's been punched into them over time. Even from their release, they were mad crazy strong from the front. You would have to flank, those units were so crazy strong. You had to flank them, otherwise you would get beaten down from their pure um resilience, and also just like their damage was pretty high as well. Um, the I'm just really upset watching that. Look how many survive. I mean, I know some of these things. I know they showed this a bit too early, but like, even if they weren't in race and were in advanced formation, and look how many died. I actually like the kind of like spear sticking out as well. Anyway, that's all for today. No, it's a long video, and if you stuck around till the end, thank you. And again, I hope you enjoyed the video. This has been a very long PTR update. It's just basically a repeat from last time, and it's just to do with some more stuff. I really wish that they had these descriptions ready to go, otherwise I wouldn't have to be making repeat videos. That being said, the changes on the PTR, I'm a little bit upset, mostly because I like the Slingers to stay strong, but and also, I mean, sorry, I like the Slingers to stay a large size. Being reduced down to 28, it's understandable, but I just wish they just actually made them cost the real amount. Make them cost 150. Make them cost 140. Give them health instead. Make them 6,000 health. Give them back their 36 units. Still, that's just me. I would do things a lot differently. The Slingers are great. The companion cavalries are OP as fuck, but they're great. Like, they're great to use, not because they're strong, but like Design-wise, they're great. And the Sunward's phalanx. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me. Their design, their flexibility, everything about them is just amazing. Just why do they have to be overloaded with so many extra things where it's just like you could have just had the Macedonian phalanx with shields, with pikes, move back and forth. You could get rid of that Ares bullshit thing. Just have them move back and forth, and that would have been it. That would have been a perfect unit. But no, you have the Ares flurry thing that will make it you gotta give them a burstability. Like that Ares flurry, oh man, you're gonna get hit by something real tough. Nah, Ares flurry, poke, poke, poke. They actually had pretty decent block break. It's not a joke how strong their block break is. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. But other than that, my name's Atsukai. Have a nice day. Bye for now.